Welcome to Speaking Cinema, series movie Jibber Jabber, a movie podcast, coming to you live from a tin can in the back of a stable in Hollywood, California. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr. Listen to us Jibber Jabber every single Monday. Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, various media platforms.
The Royal Air Force radio station. Yeah, we're on that.
Yeah, we got that sweet 9 a.m. slot on a Tuesday morning.
Yep.
The commuter spot.
You know, when you're on your horse.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. On your horse, of course. I am your host, the majestic stallion known as Mr. Jibber Jabber. With me today, as always, the donkey that plows your onion fields, Kevin. Onions. This week on the Jibber Jabber, separated by war, tested by battle, bound by friendship, 2011's Warhorse, continuing this edition of Director Buffet, gibbering about choice films from director Steven Spielberg.
Beard.
It's also weird because I was kind of typing up my notes and doing some stuff, and it's like we are really just, scratching the surface with this guy because he has so many movies.
He's got a lot. I mean, he has a large, diverse filmography, and it's hard. It was tough picking out just a few to do. We can't do them all. We'd be here all.
Should we have done the Crystal?
You could do a whole podcast on Steven Spielberg.
Should we have done Crystal Skull? I'm gonna say no, because if you're gonna do any of them, you should do Raiders, which is the best one.
Yeah,
arguably.
Spoiler alert: we are doing Raiders.
Warhorse, featuring an ensemble cast led by Jeremy Irvine, Emily Watson, Tom Hiddleston, Benedict Cumberbatch, and David Thewlis. Written by what?
Of Harry Potter fame. He was.
Is he Dumbledore?
No, he's not Dumbledore. He is the one who turns into a werewolf.
Oh,
he's number 3.
Who is he in this?
He was. He's the landlord.
Yeah.
As you'll see when we watch this movie.
Okay. Written by Lee Hall and Richard Curtis, based on the novel by Michael Morpurgo.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure.
And the stage play by Nick Stafford. Produced by DreamWorks, Amblin, and the Kennedy Marshall Group. Distribution by Touchstone Pictures.
You don't get that Touchstone logo in front of movies.
Touchstone part of Disney?
I believe so.
Interesting. If you're not familiar, young English farmhand Albert enlists to fight in World War I when his beloved horse Joey is sold to the cavalry. This movie is yet another Best Picture nominee for Steven Spielberg. Deserved? We'll find out.
It was when they it got in there because that's when they expanded it to it could be as much as 10. So
a move that
part of that big field.
A move that I liked that you could.
I think so too, but again, only one's gonna walk away with it. So.
Sure, but enough movies come out where we could say there are 10 good movies in a year.
Yeah,
because you say there's. It's weird.
Not everybody does just a top 5. Everybody does a top 10. So
right.
That's like the Academy's top 10.
I'm with you. It's a weird thing because even though you could say it doesn't matter, but in terms of when anyone says anything, right? If you're like, there are 5 good movies this year, that's a weird thing to say.
It is. Yeah.
And same thing with like with the animated features, it's out of 3. It's like
come on.
It's
more than that. Usually, but I like that. The animated movies are getting in that expanded Best Picture category too.
Gotta be brave.
Toy Story was up there.
Pixar can put their hat in. They're not afraid to fucking campaign. 14 horses were enlisted to play the main horse Joey, including the horse Fiddler's Key. That's his name.
Finder's Key.
Oh, Finder's Key.
Yeah. Did I type Fiddler's?
No.
Okay.
I said that.
Finder's Key.
Who also portrayed Seabiscuit in the 2003 movie Seabiscuit.
And you know where Finder's Key lives? Lives in Santa Anita Park. Here in Los Angeles.
And is he a pony that you could bet on?
He has retired from racing, but when he's not out and about doing either appearances or on his stable, he is at the park, and you can take pictures.
He's drinking his fermented mash because Finder's Key is a sad guy because he always gets typecast as the hero horse, and he really wants to find a new.
He wants to expand. He wants to be that villain.
Well, I hear this year's South by Southwest he put as a villainous horse in a romantic comedy.
Hey, you know what? Good for him.
It's a
break out your mold. Finder's Key.
I heard the early buzz is that he's not very good, but we'll get to it. Spielberg says there are only 3 digital effect shots in the entire film, and they only last 3 seconds. And they were done, he says, to ensure the safety of the horse. Lies.
We'll talk about it.
I'm just saying,
In those special features, they had a full-time, person from the Animal Care Association just on set every single day.
As they should.
Was during pre-production. Because they had so many horses, They actually had, huge cavalries of horses.
I'm just saying, there's a lot more CG that goes into movies that is very subtle. Say the makeup. When the guy turns his face, the makeup kind of looks weird, you just go ahead and CG that out, So I'm saying, I think a lot of people, when they talk about CG in their movies, don't like to mention those kinds of things.
Well, sure.
So, whatever. Spielberg and his longtime editor, Michael Kahn, said this is the first film they've ever edited digitally. They went on to say that they will now swear off digital editing forever after they've completed Warhorse, because they feel like it messed with their creative process, and I think... per my research, they elaborated that it made it so it went too fast.
Yep. I mean, sometimes you gotta... Spielberg's been doing it a long time, obviously. Michael Kahn's been doing it a long time. If you're used to working at a slower pace, and that's how your mind processes it, then yeah, going to digital, it is gonna be too fast. But, it's whatever works for you. And if the master wants to stick to film, he can stick to film.
I'm with you, and, when you put it that way, it definitely makes sense.
That being said, digital editing is a fantastic tool.
But that's what I'm saying is that, for us, where we've never... I'm going to speak for you. We've never cut anything on film. Nope. We've certainly never cut anything on a film bed.
Nope.
So it's what do you... how would you even do it the other way? And it's it went too fast. So you just want to be... You want your 12-hour workday instead of a 6-hour workday? Because we're waiting for people to, sync up reels and shit?
Yeah.
But,
it's
it goes back to what you said,
you.
if that's how you want to do it and you got the time and the money, who gives you shit?
Exactly.
As of this recording, Warhorse available, digital HD purchase, rental on Amazon, iTunes, DVD, 4-disc Blu-ray. That's how you get Warhorse.
It has been on Netflix before.
You can also...
Not currently on there, though.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You could also pick up that book and read that book if you want. We're not going to talk about that book in great detail. There's a stage play that we alluded to before. You can...
The stage play is actually how Kathleen Kennedy discovered the story.
Ooh,
she saw it on the West End and was immediately called Steven Spielberg. Was like, I've seen this play, and Spielberg was like, I'm all in.
Let me divert you with one question, and let's get back to this play. Have you ever read the novel?
I have not.
I have not. Have you ever seen a play?
I have not.
I have. I saw it at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in downtown LA, and it was terrible.
You did not like it.
Fucking terrible. It was a disaster. Hated it.
Was it a professional production, or was it more of a...
No, it's like
a touring theater company.
Yeah, it's there's thousands of people in the audience. There was a big stage, there was lights, and
so it's not like
it had the actual weird mechanical. It was famous because they had the horses were all played by 3 people. They're all dressed in black and in these mechanical looking horses.
Yeah.
So it was that production. It was.
You did not like it. Huh?
It was fucking terrible. All of the characters were completely one-dimensional, and the acting made pro wrestling look subtle. It was Kev, you know that I'm the guy who's there's something to like in most things, right? If you listen to this podcast,
you are a generally positive reviewer.
When it comes to things, I kind of look for the thing to like. Yeah. But there is nothing like in this shit.
All right,
this was terrible.
This is a great primer for this movie. Then.
Oh yeah. So I'm going into this with some low expectations.
We'll find out.
So I would not recommend that play to anyone. And it's okay. So going back to your story, so she saw that and she's like, "Steven, you got to make this." And it's like, well, really?
Yeah. She was compelled by the story. Yeah.
So
but who knows? It is a British story. Maybe a British theater troupe can do it better justice.
There was okay. So here's the problem with the play. The play was this is dumb is kind of a dumb word, but it was dumb because there's a scene in the play where there's 2 guys talking in no man's land, right? The area between 2 trenches in World War I. And everyone's speaking English because, hey, the audience speaks English, right? Yeah. So one guy in a thick German accent is, "I don't understand you. I don't speak French or whatever,
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
And then another guy who's French is like, I can't understand what you say in German, and it's like, that's
Speaking English.
they're both speaking English, right? So it's like, okay, I get it's a play and we're using our imagination, but wouldn't it have been better if one of them said one line in, so the German guy says a line in German,
Yeah.
and the French guy in English says, I don't understand what you're saying, and then the German guy says something in English, like, I don't understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
and the guy responds in French. And that way the audience is a little bit
Yeah.
out of the thing.
That's the way like John McTiernan does it in his movies when he flops around with languages. He does it very well.
Me and John McTiernan have something to talk about because
He needs to go talk to these Warhorse people.
Apparently.
Because that's very confusing.
and this is not speaking theater, serious theatrical Jibber Jabber coming in fall 2018. So let's talk about the movie. Have you seen the movie?
I did. I saw it in its theatrical run. Did a double feature that day.
Holy shit, because this movie is long.
It's a long movie, but my buddy was in town and we had nothing much to do, so we watched Warhorse and then we went and saw Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
What a double
Dude,
feature.
it was good, man. We had a great time.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
How did those things tonally match up?
Totally, they're completely different.
Which
But
one's Ghost Protocol? That's the one in Dubai, right?
Yeah, that's
Well,
when he scales the Burj Khalifa.
That's a fun movie.
Brad Bird's first live-action film. Fantastic.
I have not seen this movie as of this recording. I'm familiar with it because I saw the
It's all
play, but didn't see the movie. One of those ones where I wanted to. It came out in Oscar season, a lot of Oscar buzz, and I wanted to see it, but it's there's so many.
There's a lot of movies out
You got to have like a real plan, and like now living in Hollywood, we go to the Sundance Theater, which is the $6 Tuesday. So Oscar season, you're just watching Oscar movies every Tuesday. But at the time, we hadn't figured that out yet. Spielberg, number of war movies under his belt. Do you think he's going to be able to keep the stories fresh movie to movie with all these war movies?
He finds something interesting every time in it, I think. From Empire of the Sun to Saving Private Ryan to this, I think he finds really interesting stories within the context of war. So and I think as terrible as war is, it is a goldmine for stories, very human stories, political stories, historical stories. So he's always finding a new angle. That's another thing I think is very impressive about him, is he can always tread familiar territory, but is always trying something different.
He's also a really good action filmmaker. He
Yes.
has a really good action sensibility, and he has a really good, I'm going to call it a horror sensibility, but what I'm really talking to is violence, right? He knows how to show violence on screen. So you look at Saving Private Ryan, and it's like, the violence in that movie is so horrible, but presented in a way that's like watchable, aesthetically beautiful. So I think that's why he's good at doing war scenes, is because if you understand action and you understand violence, that's what a war scene is.
Yep.
So, and he also is like not afraid to go there with like a war scene, like in Lincoln. You ever watch Lincoln?
Oh, yeah.
There's like a 40-second scene of a battle in that, but that scene is like horrific. There's a guy stomping a dude's head down in mud. You know what I mean? It's like, you usually see people's bloodlust. It's just in like 15 seconds. You know, so he's not afraid to go there.
And that's what war is like, man. It's nasty. It's brutal. It's not glorified. It is fucking just down in the dirt and nasty, and he's not afraid to show that.
Yeah.
Saving Private Ryan was like very revolutionary in showing that. Even a movie like Platoon, which was thought of as super gritty, definitely, I think, kind of gussy some things up a little bit. But yeah, Private Ryan is just
right.
That opening scene is intense
Hopeless.
and brutal, and it always will be.
Speaking of World War II, why do you think World War II gets all the movie glory? Very few movies focus on World War I.
Yep, very few. Warhorse obviously takes place during World War I. I think World War II was... I think there was a clear idea... There was a clear idea of who the enemy was in World War II.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like...
Best villains of all time, right? You could just hate those guys.
You got Hitler, you got Mussolini, and you've got the Japanese.
But I mean...
The axis of evil, it's like, that's straight out of a comic book.
But with Mussolini and the Japanese, I mean,
They were along for Hitler's ride.
Well, but conceptually, right? In terms of like... Because, there are lots of World War II movies that take place in the Pacific Theater, but those are all kind of from, like, the 50s.
Yeah.
The ones that are really... what we really think of a World War II movie is, like, Hitler.
Yeah.
And the Nazis are the best villains because they have a really cool aesthetic, right? They have all these...
They are snappy dressers.
Yeah, they got, like, skulls and fucking red bandanas and shit. And what they're doing is so monumentally evil to be almost unbelievable.
Exactly.
It's like...
I've been to Germany, and, Germans don't want to ever forget anything, so they have monuments to lots of different things that happened. World War II, Berlin Wall, all that. So, like, Germany is a living, breathing World War II museum. Like, you can visit sites where a lot of stuff happened. And the overarching thing I got from it is that the Nazis were planning... They were going to build their World Conference Center. They were going to have everyone had a house in the Alps. Like, Hitler's was the only one that was finished. These people were thinking long-term, take over the world.
Right.
Shit.
They're
And
gonna
like
build
that is like supervillain stuff.
Right. Exactly. Yes, Kevin. Yes.
And we'd never seen an enemy like that before. So, like, World War I it got kicked off because Franz Ferdinand is assassinated, not the excellent dance rock band, the Austro-Hungarian politician. And then that, like, kicked off a lot of tension between different countries, and other countries got roped in. So, not saying it wasn't a devastating war, not saying it wasn't important, but World War II has that very clear enemy, and to put that on screen is much easier to do. And, I may be wrong, but World War II went on a lot longer than World War I, and involved a lot more countries.
I mean, they're both world wars, but I mean, there's also different theaters, like the African theater and but also with World War II. Going back to World War I, trench warfare is not a glamorous thing, right? It's like this meat grinder, and it's the culmination between old war strategies and new war technologies.
Yeah.
So I mean, everyone looks at like Lord of the Rings battle, right, where everyone lines up and then you run at the other guys, you try to break their army that way, and everyone's like, that's so stupid. And it's like, well, it is stupid in the context of what we have now, right, where you have a drone. So nowadays, instead of lining up your troops on the field, we'll just drone you in the middle of the night, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But you look at back in the day where, you have archers and fucking swords, it's like, well, you gotta disrupt the other army and then you can take them out, right? And it's like technical warfare.
And Tolkien fought in World War I.
Did he?
That's where he got a lot. That's where he got a lot of inspiration for Lord of the Rings. So yeah. And
then you look at World War I is it's a hard thing to unless you're making something the villain status and the warfare status. It's hard to glorify this, right? Where everyone's just getting mowed down, senselessly because no one knew how to really adapt. Like they're trying to adapt, but they just it's like we're all gonna wait in this dirty, fucking, filthy trench and gas each other. It's like it's ugly.
Yep.
And World War II is ugly too, but you're fighting to liberate the world from a goddamn Bond villain. They're stealing the world's art, the Monuments Men kind of shit. They're stealing the world's art, and they're gonna make a museum and put all of that art in the museum. Hitler was willing to bomb every city, but not Paris because he loved Paris. It's like what? You're not gonna bomb Paris? You're not gonna? Well, we have to take Paris a different way. We can't ruin it because because aesthetically it's like the second best city after Berlin. It's like, whoa. So it's interesting,
And there's not a lot of footage from World War I just because cameras weren't.
Yeah, World War II is much more photographed work.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have a lot more stuff and images from World War II. So long and short of it, World War II is a more cinematic war than World War I.
Right. Although I do think that now that we're willing to show more gritty shit and talk about how war sucks, I think World War I's prime for a comeback.
It's supposedly in the Wonder Woman movie coming up. So
great.
The part where she's in
you gonna watch that movie, Kev?
We'll find out.
Okay. What do you like horse movies?
I think it is an interesting subgenre of. There are lots of movies that center around horses, and horse people, they're nice people, but they're kind of strange people too. So they're of varying quality. Some of them are very like family based and are just gonna stoke the flames of some girl's horse obsession for years to come, like Seabiscuit or the Black Stallion, or
don't forget Flicka.
Secretariat. But then it can also be, I think this movie is one of them. They're very interesting stories and show, like, you know, modern society owes a major debt to the horse because we used it for so many different things. We used it as transportation. We used it to haul things. Like, horses are just very versatile animals and very strong animals. And without them, I feel like we'd be so far behind technically in a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I mean, I feel like in my mind, most horse movies are the idea of a girl getting a horse.
Yeah, that's usually what they are.
And I'm not really into that, per se. Have you ever ridden a horse?
I've never ridden a horse.
I've never ridden a horse either.
Thrown enough money on horses, so.
I've never thrown any money on horses.
We should go to Santa Anita sometime.
It's
fun, man. Oh, it's a good time.
I'm not a gambling.
You can put like 20 cents on a race.
I like games of skill.
All right.
Texas Hold'em, Magic the Gathering. These are the things I like.
All right.
Dice.
It's very pretty out there.
Oh, is it?
It's gorgeous out in Santa Anita. Yeah.
Fair enough. Do you have any other insights before we watch? This is a 2-hour and 26-minute movie,
yes,
so
it is. It's a long one.
Get your popcorn ready.
Get in the saddle. Let's ride.
Giddy up. Let's go. And we're back.
We're back.
Kev, I streamed this movie on Amazon. I had to stop it at one point because it looked like fucking Nintendo graphics.
Oh, no.
And then it started back. It was a scene where they were doing the cavalry charge. So I had to rewatch.
Oh, you gotta watch that.
I had to rewatch.
Full glory.
Yeah, we turned it off for 5 minutes and then came back. But so I watched it on Amazon Instant. Paid by $3.
One of the downsides of streaming right now, it's like sometimes that quality drops and it can drop at like a moment.
Are T1 lines still a thing? Can we get one of those?
Hey, it'd be nice.
Or T3?
We gotta be up to like T17. Come on.
You never know.
I watched my Blu-ray copy of Warhorse. I own Warhorse.
Is this I own it because I love it, or I own it because Spielberg completeness, or how is you into this?
I really liked it when I saw it in theaters, and then I was like, when that movie is $15 or under on Blu-ray, I'm gonna pick it up. And yeah, I have my little Spielberg shelf of. Again, we haven't even scratched the surface of this guy. I haven't scratched the surface of my collection. But I like adding to my director's collections. And I like Warhorse, and it had a lot of special features on it. So I was like, that was a worthy purchase. Mm-hmm. So bought it, pulled it off the shelf, watched it for this.
So what are your initial overall thoughts?
I think I really like it a lot more the second time. Because you're prepared for how it's structured. Because it is not a 3-act structure. At all in this movie.
Oh no! It is.
I can't wait to talk about it.
It is not 3 acts. It is like, what would you say, like 9 acts?
Probably 7 or 8. So, some might get lumped together. Anyways, so going into it really blind, we're very conditioned to like the 3-act structure, and when that's thrown for a loop, it's tough for us to adjust to. But for me, watching it a second time, being ready for that, I really enjoyed how it's paced and how it's put together.
Okay.
Now,
so I would say this movie is the World War I version of Dazed and Confused, in the sense of we're kind of wandering around, right?
Uh-huh.
Dazed and Confused, classic movie. Love that movie. Richard Linklater.
So yeah, that's another one I need to watch again because I've only seen it once and wasn't a fan of it.
We will do it for the podcast. We will do it for the podcast.
All right.
This is a dumb movie. I think it's horrible. I think it's poorly executed, and I hated it. And it's 2 hours and 40 minutes.
220.
220?
Yeah, it's like 226.
230.
It is not 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Okay, sorry. I timed it out. The first time I wanted to turn it off was 12 minutes in. The second time I wanted to turn it off was when the kids got to the windmill.
Okay.
The third time I wanted to turn it off was when we got to the girl at the windmill, and after that I just stopped counting because I'm like, I'm gonna have to finish this. Ultimately, this movie,
How in the world can you say this is poorly executed? This movie is sumptuously made.
The level of sentiment, because so a couple of episodes ago, I believe it was E.T., you were talking about how Spielberg is all about sentimentality, right? And I was like, yeah. Okay, and that sentimentality, I think I had some problems with in E.T. There's like a suburban sentimentality that I didn't like, whatever. This level of sentimentality here is just inexcusable. The first 10 minutes of this movie, there's not one character that we know. There's not one character we understand. There's not one character that I like. And tonally, the music is acting like Daniel-san just fucking front kicked a Cobra Kai. You know what I mean? It's like we're watching a fucking horse run around a field, and it's like the music is like seeing a brontosaurus in Jurassic Park. It's like, this is nothing. It's a horse running around a field.
This is life before it's all torn asunder by war.
That is not the way. Okay. What you just said was an interesting thing to say and an interesting thing to show. That is not what you see in this movie. Because
yes, you do.
Yep.
Yes, you do.
Because you see a horse running around a field. Okay, and then this fucking. Also, I think Spielberg loves just wiener kids. Because this fucking wiener kid runs up to the horse and is like, "I'll name you Joey," and then he's like, whatever. The horse runs away, and then the dad ruins their lives. And we spent all the time with the lives ruined, and then the war happens, and then it all gets... So there's never any good times. The dad is too much of a drunk to fucking have it be a good time.
But this is just... Alright, so here's how I think why the movie is structured the way it is. It looks at how every stage of life is affected by war. So first part is just life in general. This is what the world is like when there's no war. And we still have problems, we still have... character issues, people are flawed, we're not perfect. But
which was, by the way,
we're not shooting.
Which, by the way, could have been its own movie. Yeah. That first segment, pre-war.
Sure, why not? But we get a good lens into this is what life is like pre-war.
Well,
it's not easy, but we're not shooting.
What I'm saying, the point of that is we're burning 3 acts in the first 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Or 45 minutes or whatever that was.
All right. So. And the through line through all of these is the horse. Is Joey. Is Joey.
So by the way, I hate this horse.
It's a majestic horse.
It is.
Paid 30 guineas for it.
It is. Okay, wait. Before you get on, I don't know what a guinea is, right? But that's okay. I'll assume it's $1, right? And it's old timey, so dollars are worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're going back and forth on this thing, and I'm like, how much is a horse worth? 5, 1, 10, 25, 30? I don't...
It kind of started out, because he's like, we start the bidding at, 2 guineas or something like that, and then, that's kind of a baseline for a horse.
Is a horse worth 2 guineas?
I don't know, but that's what the...
I'm just saying that
in the context of the movie, they established that.
Later in the movie...
God, we haven't even gotten to the war yet.
We're never going to get to that war. Later in that movie... I think the mom says he's not worth more than 10 or 15 or something. She gives a number, but that whole sequence, these people are bidding, and you don't really understand if he's making a bad decision or not, or how bad of a decision he's making or not, and it's just like. And then the music is like, he's winning! He's gonna blow up the Death Star! And it's like, he's bidding on a horse, and then later you find out he fucked his whole family over. The music in this movie is... it's Spielberg's usual guy.
John Williams.
I'm not saying John Williams made a sonically bad score. The sound mixing or sound editing is just terrible, because they use the Opus anytime anything happens.
Yeah, all right.
It's like, oh, I opened a tin of fucking tuna. Dun, 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 dun,
I don't know about you, but that's how I live my life.
I mean, okay, go. You were saying something.
All right, so then horse gets sold to war, as horses were back then. They bought him from the farms. So now he's in this training phase. Meets his buddy, the black horse. Also, Hollywood, just another token black friend.
I mean, I don't want to get into race too much, but even with horses,
couldn't have gotten an Asian horse, anyways. So now you got Benedict Cumberbatch, Tom Hiddleston, the kind of bathed in these uniforms, and it's all about the glory of war and how just great everything is. And then they get fucking mowed down by machine guns, which are a pretty new technology for World War I.
Yes.
So
they called it the Devil's Paintbrush.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Because anyone can you just
mow people down.
Mow people down.
I think it's a very powerful scene showing that these guys are on horseback with swords, and this is what war was, and it was very glorious. And then the reveal that these Germans just have machine guns in the nest and just mow these fuckers down. Then we get into the German boys. And they're all about, these are just grunts doing their job, and we rarely get to see the other side of a war, I think. We rarely get to see the enemy's side. So deep into the enemy's side. And it's just, these guys don't necessarily believe in everything they're fighting in, but it's a gig, and they're young, and they don't have anything better to do. So, they get enamored with this horse, they get caught in the windmill, they get shot. Now we get to the French family. It's like, these are people on the fringe of the war, and like, this is how they have to live under constant fear that they could be occupied or blown up at any time, which ultimately happens. Then we get to another grunt in the gun runner in the German war who loves horses but has to basically run them until they die, and he has to live with that as like his daily life. And then we get into the trench warfare, which is just showing it for how horrible and brutal it is on both sides. You know, the German trench isn't any nicer than the English trench. And then we get the final resolution of the horse coming home. And I think that's a really strong through line to show how every phase of life is affected by war. And I've just never seen a movie do it that way before.
I like your podcast pitch for this. And I would, based off what you just said, I would like to have you write a script for this movie. Because the problem here is that we are not connected to any character on any personal level, right? It's not like anyone is particularly charming or interesting or likable.
You didn't like that little French girl?
Fuck no. And there are no stakes here. There are no stakes here. The guy's best friend question mark, gets gassed, and we just never come back to that. He's not sad that his friend is dead. We don't give a shit. Remember that?
We come back to that.
Wow.
They're fucking blind. And like,
He's blind.
He's blind. His friend shows up again, doesn't he?
No, he's dead.
Oh.
He got gassed.
All
I mean,
right.
that's mustard gas.
I mean, he got gas too,
can't
but he got blind.
Yeah.
So, mustard gas does a lot of things to you. It doesn't necessarily kill you, but it will maim you.
I thought his friend is not dead? I don't remember seeing him again.
A lot of British folks.
If his friend isn't dead, then the scene of them getting gassed is even stupider. Because you don't even need that then. Because he's like, what's the kid's name?
Albert.
Shitty slow-mo, gas, and then that's it. You know what I mean? It's like, if he dies, that's a tragedy, but when it's not played for a tragedy, and if he lives, then we don't even need that scene.
All right. We can assume he dies.
Also,
I'm going to assume he dies.
2 hour and 30-minute movie, trim the fat, Spielberg. Jesus Christ.
All right. I will admit, and I think we'll see this in a pattern of a lot of his movie, the ending's too long in this movie. After we've revealed that Joey and Albert are reunited, and then there's the
and it
whole,
feels so good.
And then there's the whole like
bidding on him
again, and then the French guy is like, "Oh, this is your father's thing, and he helped me get through this." And I think there's a lot of that. You can go straight from them getting reunited to the final shot of him coming home. I think so.
Yes, I agree.
And,
Although I do,
just like Minority Report, ending was too long, and there's definitely there is a little fat that can get trimmed on it. So.
I do like my favorite line from the whole movie is the bidding on the horse for the second time, and the officer's like, "I got this," and he's like, 20 shillings, and let that be the end of it. It's just like, that's your plan? That's your plan, just to be like, and no one bid against me. Love it. That's fun. Emily, time for an Emily quote.
Oh boy.
So, in the middle of the movie, she gets up and walks over to our kitchen over here and starts doing some dishes, and I'm like, you'd rather do dishes than watch this movie? And she just, not even looking up, says, yep.
Wow.
So,
Jeez,
and Kev, to her point, I can't watch someone plow a field for 15 minutes. I can't watch that. It's so boring. He's plowing a field.
But it's for their family's livelihood. He's got to do it. This is the hard scrabble life that an English farmer had to live. So he goes to all that trouble to plow the field, and then it rains too hard, and his turnips are fucked. Like, life sucked back then. And that's how they show it.
The past definitely did suck.
It sucked.
Also, the anthropomorphic...
Before war, it shows up at all. Life is terrible.
The anthropomorphic the anthropomorphic horse stuff drove me crazy.
Like what?
Every time it's convenient to the plot, the horse suddenly understands English and context and will insert himself when push comes to shove. Gag.
So
Gag.
You didn't like it when he helped pull the gun for his buddy who was like near death?
He's a horse. Horses don't think like that.
Horses are very intelligent animals. They're incredibly
Homie,
smart.
a horse ain't no dolphin, all right? If this was a dolphin, I'd be like, all right, maybe, or a gorilla. I'd be like, oh, probably a gorilla just figured it out. It's a horse. It's a dumb horse.
Horses are not stupid.
Oh, so a horse is smart.
Incredibly
So a horse is smart enough to recognize that the German guys are gonna work this horse to death, and that my knee doesn't hurt like this guy's knee hurt. So let's switch them out. Let's just switch them out real quick. I'll do it. Though, hey guys, hey, I'll pull this gun. I got it.
In the context of this movie, I buy it. Bought it hook, line, and sinker. I totally get it.
So the scene where they're learning how to whistle to get the horse in the beginning when they're training the horse.
Yeah.
Emily goes, it's time for another Emily quote. She goes, "That's hardly a whistle, young man." And then she said,
Young man. Emily is secretly 60 years old.
She is. And then she turns to me and says, "Can we watch this movie on mute on the laptop and watch normal TV on our TV?" Which I'm like, wait, no, we cannot do that. And then she just begrudgingly says, "I fucking hate this movie." So,
man, I am just fighting a mountain here.
I'll give you one scene that really worked. And, when we, way back when we talked about me seeing the play, the scene where they cut the horse out of no man's land was very, very well done.
If you hadn't liked that scene, I would have walked out here.
But
not really. We have other things to do.
Yeah, you come back here. Well, especially in comparison to how I described it from the play. The fact that they both speak, it's like the play. After seeing the scene in the movie, you understand that the play didn't understand what that scene was supposed to be about. Mm-hmm. It's like that scene in the play was about we're different, but we both feel compassion for this horse, and this one is we are the same, and we both feel compassion for this horse, right? And also, there's really good humor in that sequence where he's like, "You speak English good?" He's like, "I speak English well."
Yep.
And then he's like, "We need more bolt cutters," and they just all come flying over it. Yeah. That's really well. That's really, really, really
it's
well
one
done.
Of the great war is pointless scenes. There's one in, I can't remember if it's Longest Day or All's Quiet on the Western Front. There's a scene where guy's hauling his buddy. And he's like,
All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah, he's hauling his buddy. He like collapses. He realizes his buddy's dead, and he looks and he sees a bird. Yeah, and it's like that is a great war is completely pointless. This scene I also think is that because it's two guys who feel exactly the same about this horse, who don't want to be in these fucking trenches, and they have enough compassion about it, and they just get the horse, and then they kind of have a small bidding war, and he's like, "We're taking this horse." He's like, "Okay," and then there's a great when it's pulling back, as soon as they kind of split sides again, a tree comes into frame and separates them, like physically separates them. It's like that's
a visual representation of what's happening now. We're going to go our separate ways.
Yeah. And then
it's back to war.
But like there's such a thin line between that, like we're fighting and we're friends, and it's one of the great war is hopeless, pointless scenes, I think. It's extremely well done.
No, that scene was really good. And I was gonna get to this later, but there's a good war movie in this movie. The problem is all of the non-war parts, in my opinion, are completely just like, again, you wouldn't call it Warhorse. It's a different movie. What I'm talking about.
It'd be called a horse.
It'd be called World War One. You know what I mean? But
it'd be called Paths of Glory, and Stanley Kubrick would have made it.
Yeah, but that scene was exceptionally well done. How it's like, what, you want to fight for this horse? And he's like, let's not start a war over this.
Yeah.
And again, like that's a funny line, and these are funny guys, but there's also saying like, they're both admitting I don't want to fight over it. I'm done fighting.
Yeah.
That scene is really well done. Another scene that's really well done is the trench warfare fight, which is an excellent Saving Private Ryan level of battle where they're all getting their instructions, and then you see they're getting artillery shelled, and they're talking to each other, and it's Spielberg has the balls to have a scene where a guy is delivering his lines, and then an explosion happens behind him, and a bunch of dust rains down on the camera and the actors as they're talking, as they're acting.
Stunt guys are flying around.
So then one of the artillery shells hits the fucking trench, and everyone flies away dead.
Yep.
And it's really bold filmmaking, and then they go. And they go across the trench, and it's just shot immaculately.
And he does it. There's no blood in this movie. There's no Saving Private Ryan level gore in it, which but it's still harrowing.
Yeah.
He does it in a few different scenes. I think the scene where they get mowed down with the machine gun too is another one that, they're all on their horses, and then all of a sudden the horses are run through the woods without their riders.
Right.
On it.
I wouldn't call this a horror movie. I don't think it's a horror movie,
No.
but there are horror moments right before they go into battle or during a battle where you see someone lose hope or really crack under the pressure. It's like he's really capturing fear and anxiety of battle, of like putting your life on the line.
But these are kids too.
Yeah.
And that's something, I think that's why part of the beginning is essential. It's like, Albert's just a farm boy, and guess what? 90% of the kids in that trench are just farm boys from England.
Right. And that we see that 3 of them are from his hometown.
Yeah,
Right. But like, there's a horrific scene, right, where Loki is, they're charging and he sees the machine gun and the camera, he's like, oh, battle, like, blah, and then the camera pans around his face and you see him lose, he realizes that he's just lost.
Yeah.
And in that moment, it's pure fear on his face. And like, that's such a horror, not like fucking Jason, whatever. It's horror, the horror of life, the horror of war moment. And I think that Spielberg is able to capture that without blood. And when they're running across those trenches, you're just like, you're waiting for terrible things to happen. And you see it, like someone will get hit and fall into the barbed wire and get tangled up in the barbed wire or whatever.
And we've seen the country be just green and lush and full, and then now we're just in just the muck. And like, we know that area used to look like what it did in the beginning. It used to be green, and now it's just completely torn up and ugly and nasty. So I don't know if you read IMDb trivia or watched any of the special features.
I did not watch special features
because you had streaming.
Because I had streaming. I did look at the trivia.
So Tom Hiddleston said in that shot, Spielberg told him, as soon as the camera gets on you, he says, you're 29 years old right now. He says, I want you to de-age yourself 20 years, and you're a 9-year-old kid staring down those guns. And it's like, you really see that in his face. It's like, when you got a machine gun pointing you down, it just, nothing else matters, and like, your life is over. That's really powerful.
No, and I do think that mixed in, part of the meat is delicious, part of the meat is covered in fat, and then there's some of the meat that is actually spoiled. But it is a mix of things. Like, I think that scene does stand out in this movie as just excellently done. Even the little thing of, you see all their horses in the field and then they all get up on top of them. That's just a beautiful shot. You know what I mean? And very evocative of what they think they're doing. Right? And they're like this cavalry and they have swords and they come up against guns and they all just fucking lose. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then you have that balance out with, let's shoot this horse in the head, and then the guy is like, no, this is my horse. He responds to himself, this is what the horse looks like. I'm blind, but I'm telling you what. And that's a great scene too. And then the fucking doctor guy's like, now that we've established this is your horse, he's a soldier. It's like, oh great, now that we've established that you own this animal, now the animal has been upgraded from animal to soldier. Because that makes sense.
It's because, again, this guy is working on dead people, and he doesn't have time for a fucking horse, but then he realizes what connection this horse has to it. This horse has fought as hard and as tough as anybody else in that war that he's taken care of. And yeah, your first knee-jerk reaction is going to be, it's an animal. It's going to die. I'm sorry. I can't help you. But then to hear those stories about it and, see somebody who got reunited with his horse through all the shit and all the terrible stuff, you would have a change of tune, I think. You would understand that, like, this isn't just some animal. It's like, it was somebody's horse and it fought and it survived.
I'm willing to upgrade it from animal to special animal. I'm not willing to upgrade it from special animal to soldier. It's not one of those secret military bears that we all know about but talk about. Okay?
Also, the guy who plays the doctor is on Game of Thrones. So there you go. Plays Davos on Game of Thrones.
There you go.
The great Liam Cunningham.
Do you want to get into nitpicks and cool stuff, or you got something else you want to throw into this?
I want to talk about the dad a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the function of the dad. He is... Because when we first introduced him, he's just this drunk, and he's this hardscrabble dude. I like that he's just hardscrabble and he's not kooky. He's just like this gruff dude. We need more gruff dudes in movies. He is the the early showing of the cost of war, and like what it does to you.
I agree with
and
that.
What happens when you see it, and like I think it's a nice reveal when she says like, no, this is what your father went through. You know,
he's not proud of what he did.
Exactly.
Which I thought was a very important line.
And seeing friends who have come back from fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq, it's like it does change you, and it changes you for the worse in some cases. So I think once, and then that really sells the last shot, not of the horse, the shot right before it, when Albert and his dad reunite for the first time, bathed in orange, and it's like he knows now he can understand at a level his father understands life at. You know, he's seen the worst in people, but he's also seen the best, and it's a hard burden to carry. And I think that he could have just been a kooky old man, but they made it a really balanced, really smartly done character, I think. So yeah. But a lot of people wanted to cut that dad out, but I thought he was great.
I mean, to me, he's like a villainous character, though, because he fucks up the whole farm. Which is fine. It's just like... Listen,
he made a mistake just like we always do.
The problem is not the dad, the problem is not the acting, the problem is not anything other than the fact that the fucking music celebrates him like he's goddamn Jesus Christ. And he's not. And that's the problem with the movie. When you watch this again, put a post-it note in your DVD case and just say, listen for the music. And you can see that in the beginning, they're like, he's doing great things, da-na-na-na-na. And it's like, no, he's not. It's stupid. It's stupidly done.
Did not get that feeling at all.
That music in that beginning ruins this whole movie. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now.
Wow. Okay.
You want to get into nitpicks?
Yeah, let's get into some nitpicks.
Fuck farming and fuck the past. I want to live in the future where everything is like hydroponically grown. You know, you grow it all indoors with heat lamps and shit. Fuck farming.
They're showing you it's a hard scrabble life, you know?
I'm just saying.
It's not easy.
I'm just saying, you know, everyone is like, romanticizes this idea of like, let's just live off the land. We'll have solar power and live off and grow our own food. If you think that, fuck you. You have that means that if you say that
means you've never farmed a day in your life.
That means you have no grasp on how the world works.
Yep.
That is, we can just tame nature. We can just do whatever we want. You know, I'll just grow food, and every year the only thing that I grow will always be there, and it'll always subsist because Mother Nature doesn't give a shit. You know what I mean? Come on.
Spielberg knows a thing or two about trying to tame nature. Never gonna win.
Your turn.
David Thewlis, kind of an underrated character, I thought, the landlord. So he's I don't know why you get an actor as good as Thewlis and not give him much to do. So, but again, he's kind of he's evil landlord, and we only spend a little time with him.
There are big days and small days.
This is a big day. There are big days and small days. This is a big day. It was a big day for Joey. Okay. All right.
Oh, so plowing? Don't want to see plowing.
Depends on what kind.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
That second bidding on Joey scene, you just don't need it. So
there's a lot of time spent not talking in this movie. Like, you know, no one's saying anything; they're just doing things.
Yeah.
Which is okay. Which would be okay if anything interesting was happening action-wise, which it's not. So, Spielberg, I reference you to episode 46, Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. Take some notes, homie. Take some notes.
That's all I got.
The goddamn horse is a genius when it comes to being crucial to the plot, and it's so annoying.
Smart horse.
You're such a smart horse when you're being
smart.
You're such a smart horse. Why don't you escape when fucking
he jumps over a tank? Yeah, he's got nothing around him.
But he's being
fuck the tank.
He's being bid on, and he's gonna be sold to someone else. Like, why don't you jump out then, huh, homie? Because you magically know it's all gonna work out. Fuck you.
He was a teenage horse that didn't know any better.
Fuck that. Cool stuff. Tom Hiddleston is a gem. That guy is a gem. He is great at everything that he's in.
He is good. Benedict Cumberbatch's "Be Brave" speech, I think, is very rousing and very good. Also, this was the first major Hollywood movie for both of those guys.
Oh, really?
I looked at their IMDb, and Tom Hiddleston was in some BBC shows and some very small British independent movies, and Benedict Cumberbatch was stage actor and in BBC shows. And like Spielberg just plucked both of those guys, and now that's like Internet Boyfriend 1 and 2 right there.
Internet Boyfriend
started
1 and 2
in Warhorse.
What do you you got any other cool things you want to highlight that we haven't talked about previously?
I really like the shot of Tony Kebbell's character looking over the trench with his little periscope. That's just really cool. It's tough to use mirrors in a thing like that, but you see his whole face, you see him talking, and then they use some other camera moves. It's just a really efficient way to do that. So,
the old man's pigeon story. What do you make? What does that mean to you?
Which pigeon story?
He says the girl's like, my parents are dead. How come you won't tell me they're dead? She also doesn't seem to be very sad at the idea that her parents are dead, but that's a conversation for another day. And then he says, the French have the best pigeons, and the pigeons are important because they fly and they give messages, and that can win the war. But don't you think a pigeon, when it looks down and looks back, sees all this stuff and thinks I should be looking at that, but no, it has to go forward? What do you make of this story?
I just don't remember that part.
What a perfect answer.
There we go. Yeah, I just don't remember that. So it didn't affect me, obviously. So.
What do you think about... Do you think this movie has an old Hollywood aesthetic that helps or hinders it?
I think it has it to a point. It's not overly stuck on, like, we're going to do everything the way, Cecil B. DeMille would have done it. It's a nice blend of an older aesthetic, but a lot of modern techniques. And I think the fact that they used all real horses in that cavalry charge, the fact that that village is all real, the trench is a full set that they built. There's no... Watching the special features on this thing, you never see one green screen. And that's really impressive. And I think it does give this movie a lot more texture and a lot more detail that I think really puts it head and shoulders above a lot of other war movies. So yeah, I think it does help it. And that last scene is very cool, I think. It kind of looks like it's an old Hollywood set, but they did shoot it on the farm where they had it at, and it's just a very evocative, powerful way to do it. So,
in the context of this question, I don't think it's good, but does it save the movie to me? No, because it doesn't. Because everything else doesn't add up to anything. So the fact that you really made this trench, I mean, I guess if this trench looked like shit, I guess I would hate this movie more. Yeah. But so I guess it helps.
They didn't cheap out on anything.
Sure. Other than
there's great shots of like we talked about when they're getting up in the reeds and there's like a little bit of pollen in the air and it just gives it that extra layer of detail. And the last scene where they rub the mud off of Joey, it's like there's snow kind of just hovering in the air, and that looks really cool. And it's just a lot of those little touches that just sell it.
Too many characters in this story? Is it too episodic?
So I think the way it's structured, you need this many characters because you need to see war from all these different perspectives.
I'm going to say yes, too many characters, because a lot of them don't add a lot.
I think you need them.
I just think it's kind of a, I don't know. Do you think the movie's too sappy?
No. I don't think so.
I think this is the story of a man who fell in love with a horse.
It can get,
and it's gonna get kinky after this.
It can get saccharine, but I don't find it to be overly sappy because it's a different vision of war than like Saving Private Ryan.
It is in the sense of what you're talking about, where it's just it is where it's about the full theater, not just like the soldier story.
Yeah.
That being said, I do think it's way too sappy. Your horse is a soldier now.
That horse earned it. We spent 2 hours and 10 minutes of watching this horse earn his stripes.
I'm with you.
He earned his socks.
I'm with you, but that's not what that guy is saying. We all think that, right? We all think that the horse has earned his, fucking, he can put him out to, put him, not in a bad way, put him out to pasture, but put him out to pasture and like
a nice pasture.
This horse is retired, right? Like you've done enough horsing for a whole lifetime. But that guy, his argument is this horse served our military gallantly. Who gives a shit? Oh, you own the horse? Okay, now the horse is upgraded to Purple Star. Fuck.
Nah,
come on.
No, I don't buy that for a second.
I mean, at this point, do we even ask, do you like this movie? Does it work? I mean, clearly yes and clearly no.
Yes, but I really appreciate it more the second time watching it. As I can kind of fit into the structure a little more. I just really latched onto it this second viewing.
So in Spielberg's oeuvre, am I saying that right?
Oeuvre.
Oeuvre.
You horse, you.
Do you think it's essential, adequate, forgettable, terrible?
I know what you think. I think it strides that line of being... I think it's one of his most underrated movies. I think a lot of people skipped out on it just because it's not... it's a horse movie, it's a World War I movie. It kind of got some critical buzz, but, it's at like 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, so... Some people really like it, some people don't. But I do think he does some really good stuff in it. And it just strides that line of, this could be one of his best movies, but his best movies are so good that it's not quite up to that quality,
I agree that there is some really good stuff in this movie.
A lot of really good stuff.
I would just say that it is squandered. Squandered opportunity.
You can't get over that music. Can you?
It's awful. It literally ruins it for me. Literally. And I'm not going to say it's Crystal Skull bad.
Which I would definitely say, if I had to pick the worst Spielberg movie, that one's probably down there.
I mean, how like a movie is weighted for like inflation?
Yeah.
If you could weight a movie for like creative inflation, that is absolutely the worst movie of all time.
Yep.
With the stars it has, with the writers it had, talent behind it, all talent associated. That in M. Night Shyamalan's Avatar, The Last Airbender. Because the source material for Avatar, The Last Airbender is great. The Avatar, The Last Airbender as a TV, it's a cartoon that aired on Nickelodeon. I would argue that's one of the greatest TV shows of all time.
Wow.
Bar none.
All right.
And they fucked that up, and Crystal Skull fucked that up. The stakes are not as high here, so I can't say it's Crystal Skull bad, but I'm going to put this on Spielberg's... if Minority Report's in the middle and Raiders of the Lost Ark's on the high end, this is definitely, to me, on the low end.
All right.
I did not like this movie. To his credit, though, I think with some reorganization, this movie could be made better. I think if you change the soundtrack, I'd probably think I have some different thoughts about this movie. And then you gotta get rid of some of the characters. Or give them different lines or something, or change it up. I think the editing in this movie is on a technical level well executed, but on an emotional level terrible.
Completely disagree.
And it's long, man. This is a long movie.
The second I felt that the first time, I was like, this movie does feel a little long.
Wait, which one did you watch first? Mission Impossible or this?
This one. I saw this first.
You couldn't watch Mission Impossible first. That'd be impossible.
Oh yeah, that would definitely be challenging. Anyways, first time I watched it, I did feel long, and again, it's such a different structure. It's not 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
Second time I'm watching it, I really dug in and got into the story, and it did not feel it's 2 hours and 20 minutes. So it took a couple viewings, but it got there for me. So I do not feel like this movie's too long. I don't.
All right, well, that's it for us. This episode written by Kev, hosted by me and Kev, music by Jeff Russell. Listen to us every week. Come back next week. We'll talk about another Steven Spielberg movie, maybe.
Yeah, we're in the muck here with old Spielberg. Mm-hmm. Got some more coming up.
So if you listen to this in the future, I guess you're
a precog.
You're just listening to something else, and I think in this world there are big movies and small movies, and this is a
big movie.
Small movie.
Oh.
See you next time.
See you next time.